Scott, about how old were you, and do you remember what it was like when you really understood what a big deal Carl Silvestri will always be here at the University of Wisconsin?
Well, my dad was a very humble man, and you had to really get it out of him for him to even talk about his football career. But I think it really hit home when I got to high school, and I'd have these opposing coaches come up to me and tell stories about my dad, whether it was here at Wisconsin or in the NFL. And of course, they thought I was better than I was, and I was a big disappointment to them. But in all seriousness, the stories really after he passed away, a lot of people opened up to me, and I realized what a special athlete he was.
I got to know your father a little bit through Mike Lucas, actually. He introduced me to Carl sitting on the hillside in Holy Name, watching football practice. And some 30 years after his Badger football career had ended, he still struck me as somebody who wanted to put a helmet on, wanted to pad up and go. That seems to be who he was, right?
He really was. And I don't say this lightly. He thanked God every day for his opportunity here. A lot of people maybe don't know our family story, but he grew up very poor, the son of immigrants. They lived in an apartment on Brady Street in north side of Milwaukee. And he probably wouldn't have gone to college without the opportunity to play football. And when he got done with his NFL career, it was, what can I do each and every day to get back to Wisconsin? And what Coach was talking about was true. He went to football games to scout players every Friday night for as long as I can remember, always looking to get back to this place because he was so thankful for his opportunity. And he was a little intense. Those stories are true, and then some.
Which I guess made the broadcasting gig covering the Badgers a little bit tough at times, right?
Yeah, he another funny story about him. I'm picking on you, sorry, Carl. But he was an announcer. I think it was like the 1976-77 season for the Badgers, and he was one and done. He would scream into the microphone. He was terrible. I mean, he actually was pretty terrible at his job. But he admitted and laughed about it, and he said, "I belong back in section U with Danny Zakis, cheering for the team." He was very good at what he did. I don't know if anyone knew the game better than my dad, but the booth was not for him. He was no Matt LePay.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer, which is that's all you need to know, and a two-way player too, right? That was old school. That doesn't happen anymore. Whatever it took.
I coached high school football, and I told my players were asking me about that, and of course they're like, "Well, did they have leather helmets back then?" And I'm like, "No, he did it out of necessity." But again, that was who he was. They were shorthanded. They had a lot of injuries his senior year. He's coming off the Rose Bowl, and it was a disappointing senior season. And he needed to play running back, and he needed to play defensive back, and he never left the field. And really, that's what got him to the NFL.
Speaking of which, do you really have a photo of him as he's going to the end zone with Dick Butkus on his back?
I do. I have a couple of keepsakes. The one I like the best isn't that one, but there is one. His sophomore year carrying Dick Butkus on his back. I'm going in for a touchdown. But our family favorite one is him getting run over by Jim Brown. And like when you're a kid, I'll never forget this. The NFL today, and they do these like halftime things, right? And they did a halftime thing on Jim Brown, and I'm like 10, 11 years old, and he's like, Scotty, that's me. And he comes up, and Jim Brown literally just runs him over, spins him like a top out of bounds, knocks about 6 more guys over. But we never let him forget that. In fact, we for his 60th birthday, we did a highlight film of that, and that was it was quite fun to pick on him for that.
I would imagine beaming with pride if he were here to see where we're in right now, the stadium, what has happened there. I mean, he's a part of that. They'll grow the program. I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah, he was here for the lean years. His friend Bob Richter would say that he never hurt an ankle jumping off the bandwagon. He did things, listen, there were tough times here in the late 80s and even in the early 90s, but you couldn't find a more loyal supporter. And that's really how he lived his life.
Absolutely. Going to give you the stage. Anybody you'd like to thank you?
Well, it's first of all, it's humbling to be up here, and I feel unworthy. I was a below average swimmer here for the University of Wisconsin. Really, my daughter Jenna should be up here. But, you know, family's everything to him. His beautiful wife and my mom, Debbie, is here, going to be attending her first football game in, I think, 18 years. And his daughter, Julie, and my wife, Amy, and the grandkids, and Amy's family here. So family was everything to him. So thank you all for the continued support, is what he would say. And the second thing I already touched on is the opportunity. Life's about opportunities, right? And you know, again, you know, he was a rags to riches success story. And I know he would thank, more than anything, his opportunity at the University of Wisconsin. And lastly, since I do have the stage and he's not here, on behalf of my family, we would like to thank you and tell you what a legacy you've left for us. And we love you, and we miss you, and we know you're here with us tonight. Thank you.